Hey, hey, this is a quick interstitial video for my Clearing the Plains review, which I think I'm going to just be kind of piecing together from these videos. My first kind of summation of the book and kind of summation of kind of like some strengths and weaknesses I thought was pretty good. I'll need to do a conclusion. I don't think I'm doing that today. There's a couple of things I want to make sure I point out in the review. So let's get into those. First thing probably to mention is that James Datchuk himself is not a native. He's a white guy, as I'll link down below to one of his talks, where he says that he's mindful of the fact that he is somebody who is from outside of a native culture who is doing this history on it. I think he's making a valuable contribution, but it just should be noted at the very beginning that he is not, and this is not an Own Voices book. It's a historian talking about a really crucial part of Canadian history, Native history that needs to be talked about. And yeah. So let's get into the review. And then probably going through. So then I will also want to add a couple of little points, or see if I can add these points. It should also be noted that the Canadian government is deeply corrupt. I mean, we complain about corruption in Canadian politics today. In the midst of all the stuff that the Canadian government has, John A. Macdonald gets run out of power for a while because of these. Corruption involving the Canadian Pacific Railway. It is a big thing, and it is maybe not too surprising that the whole because it's big money to actually supply all these rations to people on the plains, that there are big contracts involved, that people like the main person who is kind of in charge of the Canadian government's efforts in the plains, Edward Dewdney, also seems to be deeply bound up with the major corporation, an American corporation, IG Baker, who is supplying the contracts. Now, in the book, he is Datchuk uses a couple of words that makes me think that it's not rock solid, that he's actually found evidence that there's a completely solid link between Dewdney and IG Baker, but regardless of even if that high level of kind of basically Dewdney is benefiting from the contracts that IG Baker is getting. Even if there isn't that, there seems to be plenty of evidence that that basically Baker was supplying as substandard rations is possible, that they were buying stuff that were for cents and selling it to the Canadian dollar for dollars because it was rancid, really disgusting stuff that in some cases did lead to the deaths of people who were so desperate that they actually ate this sort of stuff. So that is an extra layer of malfeasance that is happening here. All this stuff happening away from Ottawa, happening to people that Ottawa doesn't really, Ottawa as in Canadian government doesn't really give a fuck about, as kind of is shown through their actions. Continued here. So that's one of the other things that I maybe will put into there, though it sends me down another rabbit hole. It might be just worth to say, and this goes and might just be worth saying. And this doesn't even go into the thing of what seems to be deep levels of corruption, going from the very head of the kind of the civil servant, Edward Dewdney, the highest civil servant there, down to just the individual agents and the corruption and terrible, basically the absolute power that Indian agents and people like them had over Native peoples, which when violence did erupted, it seems that those people who were physically, sexually exploiting the Native population were the ones targeted. And I can't help but see that, like, it seems that what's happened through here is a lot of the Native women they're not a lot. Native women were forced into prostitution, were forced into what can only be seen as a horrible reflection of what we see now today in Canada, of the missing and murdered women, and how Native peoples are forced into economic necessity, into stuff like prostitution and stuff like that, and become the easiest prey to the worst elements in our society. And that's something that seems to have been right there at the founding of Canada, and is continuing today, and is something that should shame every single Canadian. Yeah. So there's that. And then I will probably do a conclusion where I'm going to talk about, how this book affected me, how I think, it's valuable for Canadians to know about, what I think its limitations are as a book, but that it's a book that seems to really draw a direct line from the very founding of Canada to where we are right now, and the state of Canada and our moral failing, our moral and legal failing as a country, in our dealings with the native peoples of this country. So yeah, that is probably where I'll end it, and I'll probably say that in a better way. I'll try and say it in a better way tomorrow, and maybe something in there about how I feel about Canada as a country, and as a citizen of the country, and just that, perhaps that if I have any patriotism of the country, I hope this shows it, in that I'm actually interested in what our country actually is, not what some rosy bullshit picture of a country is, or what we want to project it as, and what it actually might have been. This feels like it gets a lot closer to what it actually is, than what I actually can see walking out my front door, and that what, I live very close to reservations, on Vancouver Island. So yes. And to definitely at the end thank Sean and yeah, I should, this is a buddy read with Sean the Book Maniac. Sean had this book on his shelves for a good while, and he wanted to read it, and he asked me if I was interested, and I thought, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And I'm so grateful that Sean suggested this to me, because I would have probably never picked it up otherwise. And it's a really important book for me. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.